this is actually one of the features that I liked about the Rangeline. It has very subtle styling. Airstream went out of their way to try and make sure that all of the ports and things were fairly hidden, so it's a kind of an inconspicuous vehicle. So I really love that. And as part of that, what they did is they put a lot of the ports behind what looks like just standard trim on the side of the van. So big plus for that. On the downside, they made it out of kind of this flimsy plastic, which, as you can see, doesn't particularly stick to the side of the van very well. It kind of flops around here. The way you access it is through this screw, which takes a long time to get off. Our dealer also warned us that potentially if you leave this thing out sitting in the sun, because this is a piece of just unreinforced plastic, it can warp and bend over time. So I thought, well, I can fix that. So let's take a look at what I want to do here. All right, so as you can see, the inside of this, it's fairly thin plastic, but there's a series of screw mounting holes that are in the plastic itself. So I thought what I could do is just get myself some aluminum stock and glue it along the top here and along the bottom here to give it a little bit of rigidity. And then I could mount some magnets to that as well that'll help stick it to the side of the car and keep it from flopping around like that. So let's go get some of that bar stock. Okay, so after a quick trip to the hardware store, what I've got here is a pair of just 1/2 inch aluminum angle iron. I think this will work pretty well. What I'm thinking is I can actually lay it across the top of these screw mounts here and then actually drill some screws through to fit into these screw slots so that it holds it even tighter. I don't want this coming off while I'm driving. Unfortunately, it looks like the 1/2 inch that I got is a little too deep for these screw holders. I'm going to have to shave just a little bit off the aluminum here so that it fits in tightly, because I don't want the aluminum holding it away from the side of the van. And then I've got a set of just really flat neodymium magnets here that'll hold tight to the edge of the van. I think I'll just glue those to the aluminum strip, and that way it should keep this thing from flopping around while I'm driving. I'm back, and I'll show you what we've got so far. So some interesting things I learned. First is that if you're using an L-bar, an angle iron like this, it needs to be mounted toward the inside rather than on the top as I was planning to do. I went ahead and cut the first one and then found that when I mount it on the top, it actually hits with this little metal cup around here and it won't close properly. Also, you can't go the full length to all of the screw holes because it hits the edge of the cup right here. So the max that you can go is about 23 inches. And then even more of a problem, there's this bar across here that the screw goes into, and that will hit right here. So I ended up taking out a big chunk of the angle iron, and that means that I lost a lot of the structural integrity. It's still a lot stiffer than it was, so I think it's good to do, but it's not as stiff as I would have hoped. So my plan now is to put the second one on the inside like this, and that's about as far as it can go. If I was going to do this again, what I would actually probably do is just get a round piece of aluminum and just glue it to the top of these screw holes, and then maybe make a U channel and go all the way back like that. I think that probably would have worked out a little better. What did work out pretty good though is I took some bar magnets here and I've just glued them in around the edge like that. Now when I close this thing, once I screw this thing in, those magnets engage very quickly, and you can see they hold pretty tight. So once this is screwed all the way in, they hold that against the side of the car really well, so there's no flapping at all. Well, this is the final arrangement I came up with. You can see I've got 2 stiffening bars there. It's much stiffer than it used to be, so it won't flop around loosely or warp or distort in the sun. And with the magnets, it holds really tight to the side of the van and won't flop around there either. So overall, I think a big improvement over the stock piece that Airstream put on there, and it should hold up much better. Well, after running it for a few days, update on my little magnet solution. So it turns out that Gorilla Glue, even though it's advertised that it will bond to plastic, it totally does not bond to this plastic at all. They just flake off completely. So I tried mounting the magnets to the aluminum bar, and the Gorilla Glue bonds really well there. Unfortunately, the aluminum bar is just far enough away from the metal here that it won't snap in tightly. So trying a new epoxy that claims to bond to plastics. We'll see if it does or not on both the top and the bottom here, and see if that holds longer than a few days.